Welcome.
Welcome back to the podcast. What up, guys?
How we doing?
What's up?
Been a good week.
Excellent.
Excelente.
Lots of snow.
If you're Spanish. Yeah, we had some snow this week. It's pretty sweet. It's been a It's been a weird
October.
Just I think with this week, like I said at the beginning, which was 5 seconds ago, it's been snowing and the weather has changed. And I feel like a lot of people's energy levels is kind of like, you feel that way?
I did a little bit, when the temperature dropped significantly.
Yeah.
I definitely felt just like, I don't know, just different way to approach just coming into the gym.
Yeah.
Like you do need to like warm up a little more to try and like increase your body temperature. Feel like a little more stiff. Maybe like a little harder to get up in the morning. And
I woke up the other day at like 8:30, like I do, and it was still dark. I looked out and I was like, oh yeah, it's got to be like 4 a.m. I looked at my clock on my phone. I was like, holy shit.
Mm-hmm. I don't ever remember being this dark this late in the morning. Like even those daylight, I know daylight savings time is coming around the corner, but even
isn't it weird?
Yeah, usually by 7:30 the sun's coming up a little bit, but it'd be 7:30 and still dark out. It's kind of weird.
Yeah. All right. Today's podcast we're going to be talking about is CrossFit dangerous and why I own a CrossFit gym. It's to injure people. No,
it's dangerous to get you looking good.
Yeah. So I was going to kick it off with a conversation I have with people often, especially newer people, some that have been doing it for a while. Is one of the first things they say, or one of the things they say, like if they've been doing it for a while, they always say, I just don't want to get injured, or this seems like a little bit much, I might get injured, or something like that. And this is what I always tell them. As a business, I own a CrossFit gym with my wife, and one of the best business models you can have is to make sure that you injure every one of your clients.
Yes.
Correct.
It's
the same thing as making a vehicle and just making sure it blows up every time someone drives it.
But like that same idea is from a consumer is similar. Is if I'm not sore constantly or broken, I'm not getting in shape.
But that's not even what I'm referring to. I just mean like, because I think it's just people for whatever reason. I mean, and we can dive into this, and I want to, is people, I see what you're saying, Carlos, is like, I think that's leaning into a different side of the topic. What I was getting at was people, whenever they do like the programming or something like that, like I had someone tell me like, oh, this seems a bit excessive. And I was like, why would I make you do something that I know you're going to get hurt? That makes no sense to me. Because my goal and your goal as a coach and our goal as a gym is to help people get healthier, get stronger, get fitter, all those things, check all those boxes. And injury is like the last thing we want. And I mean, because it sucks. It sucks for everybody whenever you're injured.
What's usually the first question you get when you come to our gym is after you sign the waiver is, do you have any injuries?
Yeah, exactly.
I blew up my back. I have this.
So we can work around them and make sure we don't, exactly, make it worse. But,
no, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Mine's just like kind of a similar thing of like, there's misconceptions, right? There's misconception from a consumer side of what is getting in shape. And then there's the misconception of what CrossFit is.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
By consumers and everyone that doesn't do it. So that's where I was kind of.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I meant by like, it's kind of like a, like same, but kind of different stream.
Yeah.
And, I think where a lot of the injury stuff kind of came from was, whenever CrossFit first started, they tried to separate themselves from everything else. Like our warm up is your workout. I mean, it's stuff that we used to say. Like I used to say that stuff all the time. I was one of them.
Damn.
For you listeners, Adrian just shot me a side glare. No,
I mean, Adrian just coming from Olympic lifting and then watching someone do 135 and like, what's wrong with that guy? Straight judgment.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Olympic weightlifting is another sport that's considered like super dangerous and like really unhealthy for you. That's supposed to be like, if you ever touch a barbell, like your growth will stop like instantly and you'll be a midget for the rest of your life.
Yeah, and then you're tight.
And then you're going to break your back, break your knees, break your shoulders, break your elbows. Before you know it, you'll be in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
Isn't it amazing how
so CrossFit should be even worse?
Yeah.
Because it's Olympic weightlifting plus a whole bunch of other things.
Yeah.
So
And go fast.
you may as well just be in a wheelchair before you even start.
Yeah. Just go play in traffic. It's been my statement lately. He's like, well, you might as well just go play in traffic. Call it good.
I mean, you have a better chance of getting hurt driving a car, probably.
Yeah. Who knows?
Like sitting long distance, driving, whatever.
At least in working out, it's on you. You know what I mean? Like you're doing the movement. If you're driving, someone else is driving around you. So
yeah,
unless someone drops a barbell on you.
Yeah, that is true. That's happened. But I think with the beginning of the CrossFit days was very much trying to separate themselves. Like that's like the forging elite fitness, those kinds of statements that CrossFit made.
I mean, they weren't that off.
No. Yeah,
you ruffled a lot of feathers in a billion-dollar industry.
Exactly. Yes, the industry being fitness. So yes,
Globo
you're exactly
gyms.
right. And CrossFit completely changed the landscape. Before it was like bodybuilding, some Zumba classes, and cardio.
And maybe
that
like
was it.
HIIT. I'd maybe heard of
HIIT.
HIIT.
HIIT hadn't even really started. But yeah, boot
camps. That was
like,
boot camps.
That was like go to the park and do stuff. But I feel like CrossFit kind of like started that movement of things.
How did you explain it to people when you first started? Like if I said
Dude, that was the hardest question, the elevator pitch.
I was like, I do gymnastics stuff, lifting, and at fast pace.
Yeah, like I
They're
always
like,
told
so you
people,
cross train.
Yes, that's why it's called CrossFit, cross fitness. We cross all the types of fitness over. But yeah, whenever I first started, I would tell people like, I don't know, I do a lot of weightlifting, running, and bodyweight movements. And then I try to do them as fast as I can sometimes. That was just kind of like a super simple thing to way to explain it, but people still be like, what does that mean?
And then you'd have all your calluses torn off.
But dude, some of my first workouts where I would do 3 rounds, 20 barbell curls, 20 tricep extensions, 300-meter run.
Oh, dude,
that was some of my first workouts. I still have in my phone.
I found like an old notebook of like all pyramid 10, 12, 10, 8, 4, 6, 2.
Oh, really?
Everything.
Yeah, well, like
super set with this, and then
right.
the Texas.
The Texas barbell method. Yeah, dude, bringing it back. But yeah, I think the question is CrossFit dangerous, and the simple answer is no. But anything can be considered dangerous if you, I feel like, go to the extremes, but also don't pay attention or listen. Mountain biking, take that for instance. Like the first few times we went out, I wrecked every time. And it wasn't like oh man, I hurt myself. No, it's like I front flipped over my bike handlebars because I went off a drop, not on purpose.
And I'd be all cautious, like, you all right, man? And you're like, oh yeah, I'm totally fine. I'm good.
I can't move my wrist. My right leg is bleeding. I'm good. Keep going. I can't breathe because I knocked the air out of myself.
Missing teeth.
Yeah, we're good. We're good. Like that one kid.
Yeah. Totally gnarly, dude.
That one kid that flew off and just completely ate shit.
Dude, totally off subject. I love Coach Alex's hair when he works out.
Bro.
It's
so good.
It's almost like Ric Flair.
Yes, it's so good. His
that mullet is.
Yes, his mullet's trying to think of the word. But I think anything is dangerous once you add some speed.
Intensity.
Intensity, I think is the better word. With doing CrossFit, like I'm been training this new group, and one of them asked me like, or they said like, I'm really worried about getting injured. And I don't think they're referencing CrossFit as being dangerous and they could get injured from CrossFit. I think that's just a fear of theirs. Like if they were to pick up running, like she has plantar fasciitis super bad. And I was like, well, we can work on that. And it's going away. We're working on doing some stuff, but it's because she ran and walked for a long time.
That was a pretty gnarly thing that she did. It was out in Europe, right?
Yeah.
She did like a 150 kilometer or something.
Miles. It was like 150 miles. Yeah. Walking.
I don't know. Like where does the fear of getting injured, like did you have any, like when you started Olympic lifting or doing CrossFit when you first started, were you worried?
Yeah, were there any kind of,
because like in
the States, I feel like it might have been a little different than maybe in Europe.
No, I think
I think
everybody goes through like the same phases when they do CrossFit, and like everybody is outside of CrossFit. I mean, it's just like everything else, right? Everyone outside of that one thing is going to try and criticize it.
Yeah.
And
no, what I mean is like, where's the thought? Don't do CrossFit because you could get injured. Was that?
I mean, yeah, I mean, you hear that
Europe?
everywhere. You hear that everywhere.
Yeah, for sure here, but I wasn't sure if it was the same in Europe.
And actually, yeah. Speaking of, you think the other day I was getting a haircut, and the guy who was cutting my hair was like he was asking me what I do if I work out, and I said, yeah, I do CrossFit, and he does. He just goes to the gyms, which so you can consider that bodybuilding.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, man, why do bodybuilders and CrossFitters hate each other? I was like, I don't think they do. I mean, I don't hate bodybuilders. I have nothing
yes, they
against.
do. One of my really good friends from back home, not really good friends, but one of my friends from back home, his name's Gabe. He's a super nice guy. He's not going to listen to this podcast. He doesn't like CrossFit, so I don't really care. He's a bodybuilder, and he had like full steroids, like super roided out bodybuilder guy. Has his pro card, trying to go like legit bodybuilder. And I remember back whenever, so at my old gym, I've explained this numerous times. It was like think of it like like the YMCA, or like here, if it's like a Vasa, meaning it has like a like bodybuilding room, a Zumba room, a basketball gym, like it's like all encompassing. And then we had a CrossFit room, and he would always shit on CrossFit. Always. He would always talk about it to his friends and stuff like that, and be like, yeah, you're just going to get hurt when you go do that. You know, just being an idiot. And I would talk to him, you know, just like, hey, Gabe, what's up, dude? How you doing? How's your lifts? How's going on? You know, just being nice. And I was just like, I'd go talk to him. I'm like, dude, like, what's your problem with CrossFit? Like, why do you have such an issue? Well, you guys do cheater pull-ups. And I was like, we do strict pull-ups too. And then he's like, well, you guys like those Olympic lifts, like you shouldn't be doing those under time. And I was like, what are you getting at? Like, are you saying that I'm teaching the wrong message here? And he's like, yeah, you guys that's not for building health. I was like, oh, says the guy who's on steroids.
I think it's
that makes sense, right?
Yeah, I think it's like a tribal thing.
But one day I did a class, and then I was talking to him right after, and he's like, oh, I'm about to get started. And I was like, do you need somebody to work out with? I'll come jump in with you. And he's like, really? I was like, yeah, dude, let's go. So I did a full session with him, and like we did like, I walked in, he was doing strict dips, and he had like 90 pounds on. I was like, yeah, dude, I'll do the same. How many you doing? 12? I'll do 15. And I literally would. I did more than him on every set. And then I'd be like, what's next? Because in CrossFit, you know, we're always out of breath. So I was like, yeah, well, sure, what's next? And he's like, you just see sweat pouring down his face. And he was like, dude, that's one of the hardest sessions I've ever done. I was like, yeah, cool. I'm going to go do some more. And he's like, you got more? So yeah, man, this is what we train. It's what we do. But it was just kind of an eye opener for him. And literally from that moment on, they would come get me to coach them on their squats or to coach them on bench press or something, because they recognized it. And it was just kind of like, dude, we don't have to fight. We're all fitness. Like, why are we trying to fight? But I think what you're saying is like the tribes.
Yeah, like
we're showing a threat.
We can do things better than you, or you can do things better than us, and it just becomes, I don't know. I mean, let's go back childish almost.
Yeah, well, I think it comes down to like, they want validation of what they're doing is the correct thing. And same with CrossFitters. Like, we want validation saying that what we're doing is the best thing.
But you can find holes in both of them. The great thing about CrossFit is if in a good coach and a good programmers, you can look at weightlifting, the way they do it, conjugate system from Louis Simmons. You can look at gymnastics stuff, what they do, and use their types of programming
and use it all
and implement it versus saying, no, my way is the best way. You might have a better way of teaching something that's going to benefit a client or someone in the future. I just think it like Olympic lifter is the worst part, is like you shouldn't be doing that many snatches on your shoulder joints, stuff like that. Which you've done. I have never done a full Olympic thing. You have, so I'd love to hear your side of that.
I would actually I would tend to agree with that.
With what?
With like Olympic weightlifting being done for time. Not that like it shouldn't be done, but it 100%, if you don't do it correctly, which, you know, if you're trying to like beat someone or whatever, like but actually it applies to like everything else, right? Not just Olympic weightlifting, but the issue with Olympic weightlifting
the margin of error in Olympic weightlifting is much higher. If that makes sense.
That, and there's also the fact that you're like not just handling your own body weight, but also like it could be more than your body weight.
Right, external load of some kind.
And so I feel like that does increase the risk to injury, but you just have to like know yourself and stop before. It's just like, so is CrossFit dangerous? Well, it can be if you like.
So is running.
Just
which
like
we
any
talked about
other
right before we
sport.
started.
Yeah.
If you do it incorrectly or if you do stupid shit, then yeah, you can get injured. I mean, it's just like walking in the street.
Yeah, you know how many people have come in and been like, "Oh, I hurt my shoulder." I'm like, "How? What happened?" And they're like, "Oh, I was riding one of those bird scooters, and I caught a lip and just ate shit." And I was like, "Yeah, okay."
But yeah, I mean, I do agree that there are a lot of valid points, especially when it comes to doing something that requires specific technique for time, and I think like every single athlete would agree with saying that if you really want to win a race or whatever, or really push to the limit, then sometimes the technique will just go out the window just because you're trying to get like a few seconds or something like that. And so in that case, I mean, could you hurt your shoulder? Could you hurt, I don't know, your back or something like that? Well, I mean, yes. Does that make CrossFit dangerous? No, because you don't have to push that hard, right? I mean, obviously, if there's $220,000 on the line, then it may be,
you might throw something out the
it
window.
may be
to try to
worth
win.
it. But if you're just like random athlete,
Random
average Joe
person,
coming to the gym, there's a spectrum, right, for what people decide to do. Like, what are you doing CrossFit for? Are you doing it to perform and make a living out of it? Well, then the risk of injury is probably higher, because chances are you're going to push yourself a lot harder than you would if you were just, an average Joe. Or are you just doing it to be in shape and be healthy, in which case you don't have to push like extra hard to get just like an extra second just to beat the other average Joe in the gym and just get nothing out of it.
Yeah. So you touched on something that made me had a thought. So during our one-on-one sessions, typically, like if we're teaching cleans or snatches, we always incorporate them into workouts. And the reason why I think it's very good, and then I'll pull it full circle to what you're talking about. I think it's really good to incorporate those into the workouts, because it makes you stop overthinking things. So like I'll have someone that's like super muscly, like say they're muscling the cleans every time, meaning they're using their upper body a lot, not their legs, to get the bar up to their shoulders. And I'm trying to tell them like, hey, relax your elbows, all the cues. But whenever they're fatigued and exhausted, I see them do reps and they're just like, I'm just doing whatever I can to get the bar up. And I'm like, yeah, you're using the right movers to get that bar to your shoulders.
Start using your legs.
Yeah, exactly.
Hips.
Start using your legs. The bigger movers, the things that aren't as fatigued, because your arms fatigue so much faster than say your legs. So I think it's really, really critical to add that into one-on-ones to try to get them fatigued so that they can understand how to do the movement correctly. Now, whenever we take someone that is brand new, let's say they've never done cleans, and I have them doing cleans with an empty bar, and we're learning. And I'm like, cool, let's go grab some 45s, put on 135, and then they're just fucking themselves up left and right. Okay, as a coach and as a teacher, I'm messing up, because now we're dipping into the world of what you were saying, Adrian. It's like, now at this point, they're not competing against other people in the gym, but they're competing against themselves. I guess you could say blah, 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 blah. I hate that word, or that fucking sentence. Compete against yourself and no one else. Okay, cool.
Compete against yourself from yesterday. Does that make you even happier?
Glad I didn't do this workout yesterday, so I don't know. But anyway, what I'm getting at is there is a fine line that you can kind of skate. So like if you're in class, or if you're, you're a beginner, or if you've been doing it for a long time and you feel the wheels start to fall off, rest, stop. Maybe the load is slightly too heavy. Like something you had said is you need to know yourself. So a lot of people don't. A lot of people have no clue. So it's like, well, what weight should I use? Well, you should know. It's like, well, I don't. So what weight should I use? So that's where it's like for us coaches is we should be able to suggest based on their ability level and all those things. And I know that's something that we all know. That's kind of like a duh for us, because it's like, yeah, you're not going to load someone up with 225 and tell them to do snatches whenever they're brand new. It's like, that's not going to happen. But
unless you're a freak of a nature.
Right. Yeah.
There's some people out there, man.
Yeah, that are very genetically blessed. But what I was getting at was, I believe that there is a fine line that can be drawn on the Olympic weight lifts movements. So it's like if we're doing snatches or doing clean and jerks and you're going above your pay grade, so to speak, then then there is potential for injury. But on the other side, if you're always using well under, it's not necessarily that you're capping yourself at your genetic potential, like whatever that, like that's not our goal, is to get you to your genetic potential. Unless that's your goal, then we can talk about that. But you're hindering your results because now you're not pushing yourself past your limits, and then that's where we can say the competing with yourself thing is you're not pushing yourself past yourself.
Yeah, and you talked about it last time when we talked about take the American weightlifter or European weightlifter that does everything perfect rep versus a CrossFitter.
Yeah. There's going to be some
like understanding that you're going to have either an acute injury from it, meaning it's just something that happened, maybe you strained something in your shoulder, your neck, versus chronic. If you're constantly doing something and constantly in pain, that's where I think then you need to, as coaches or as athletes, have to pull back and realize like, hey, I'm not going to snatch.
Right. Yeah, right? Like, I agree.
And those are the things where I think I could kind of agree with Adrian on that, high volume. But I mean, I've been doing this for 13 years. And I could say the first 3 was not having good guidance in doing Olympic lifts.
That was same with me. My first 3-4 years, I didn't get coached for the first 4 years of CrossFit.
That's amazing, dude. That's pretty impressive.
I didn't have a coach. I didn't have a class to go to. I taught CrossFit. After been doing it for a year, I started teaching it. So it was kind of like, and if that tells you how good of a coach I was when I first started out.
But dude, did you find that you got better as you coached? For me, I was like a mediocre, probably beyond mediocre when I first started CrossFit. Then I started coaching, and for whatever reason, I was able to start doing muscle ups and snatches.
Because you start focusing on. I think what it is as a coach, you start to see the benefits of all the skill work. You start to see the benefit because you're like, in order for you to get to this point, you need to go through X, Y, Z in order to get there. And if you don't, you're going to cut some corners and you're going to start seeing deficiencies in your movement. To kind of give an example, was last week when we were doing the cleans, everybody in our group was landing super starfished and Adrian was landing in a really good power position. And that was something he was like, why is everybody landing like that? And it's like, if you keep landing in a starfish position, eventually you can't pull the bar that high. But if you land in a good hips right above parallel squat position, you're now lowering how high you have to bring the bar. So now your ceiling goes up. So your potential for pulling the bar like higher goes up. Whereas if you're always landing in a starfish, now we're no longer focusing on using our legs to get the bar to land into the right position. Now we're using our splits. It's a normal
it's
thing,
human nature to lower the center of mass that way. It's not accurate. Like when he gave me the tip of power, no, he just said power, but if you're not getting low enough, just go for the squat.
Yeah.
And that helped.
I've always been envious of people. Like I've watched like Chase that used to come here. I've watched you do it where you go to do a power clean, but you catch it and ride it all the way into a squat. And you're like, I caught into a squat. I'm like, I have literally never done that. I've done that in a power snatch, but my feet were still super wide. Yeah. And I was like, I think I just blew my hips up. It was just kind of like how it landed. But that's something I need to work on. So I didn't go as heavy. And one of the reps you're laughing at me about, because you said my feet were all crazy, the next rep I fixed it. Was because I was like consciously thinking about that movement specifically. But that's just an example of if you're just ripping and gripping and never really thinking about the small steps to get better, then you're going to put a cap on your potential to keep pushing yourself, to keep getting fitter and to keep getting stronger.
Oh yeah.
So I agree. It's definitely something if you don't try to focus on, and as coaches we kind of see that the benefits more as a coach because we're watching these athletes every single day, whereas we can't watch ourselves every single day. So it's like we don't see the value in it for ourselves until we're coaching. And I'm not saying that you can't, unless you coach, see the value. But I think that's why, I don't know about you guys, but like it took me years to get a muscle up, and I'm watching people get them within their first 6 months. And
I like it. It's pretty cool.
It's like, fuck, man, that took me forever to get. And I struggled so hard, and you're just muscled that out like it was, you know what I mean? But I think what it is because now that we've been doing it long enough, we see the benefits of doing X first, then Y, then Z, then we go to that. Rather than for us, we're like, fuck it, just get up there and flop around until you get it.
Yeah, it was just do what was it? It was
do a muscle up until you get a muscle up.
No, it was do false grip,
Oh yeah, the strict muscle.
pull to your chest, and then trace your rib cage. I'm like,
which I still think is extremely important.
I'm like, I'm kind of fat, so how the hell does this work that way?
You just got bigger titties to
Yeah,
trace.
dude. And the dude, my wrist would be like bleeding.
Yeah.
Then you lose 20 pounds, and the muscle up becomes a lot easier.
You got a hair on your face. There you go. Nope, still there. Got a hair in the beard. That's one of the many great things of having a beard. You get to hang on to
everything.
little trails. I don't know. Maybe it's one of your hairs come from your head.
Yeah, because I have long blonde hair. It's kind of gross.
But yeah, I think for people who are not just completely new to the sport, the risk of injury comes mostly from ego.
Yeah.
Trying to push too hard, trying to go too heavy, trying to do too much.
Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, it's just a sport like any other.
Yeah.
If you just, if you go too far, you'll get hurt playing tennis or soccer or golf or chess.
I twisted my finger. No, I have an interesting take on ego. I feel like ego gets such a bad rap. It gets shit on a lot because of what you literally just said, and I agree 100%. It's a lot of people's egos to not let themselves do the. Go ahead.
Is it egos too, or is it they just think they know more? And that's not just ego.
I think that leans into ego. So I think it has two heads, and one's really good, the other's really bad. The one that's good is keeping yourself accountable. You have an ego enough to where you're like, here's a standard that I'm going to keep for myself, and I'm not going to let myself fall below that. And in using that in fitness can be for myself, every time I do a workout, I want to give it my all, and I don't necessarily mean peel myself off the ground, but I want to step away from it knowing that I did what I could.
But that's why I think the ego part you talk about is the healthy part.
Yeah, that's
and
why
what he's talking about
there's
too.
There's two heads. The other head is what he's talking about.
But that also too comes down to I don't find it as ego. I think that's just being ignorant. That we as coaches can give you guidance, and then you telling us, no, I'm going to do it this way. I don't always see as that ego. I think that's just someone that thinks they know more and will want to push the envelope rather than being like, hey, look, dude, this is a marathon, not a sprint.
Right. But I think that's their ego kicking in saying listen, I know I can do this. You don't know what you're talking about. I do. That's, you know what I mean? It's I know better than you. That to me is that's a little step into ego. And I know exactly what you're talking about.
I think there's arrogance.
Yeah, arrogance.
I don't think because I think I like to look at ego as a healthy thing. Even when he's saying is someone that thinks they can do everything, right?
Well,
but if Adrian came in and I'm like, hey, I have a little good tip for you. Even his ego has nothing to do with him being like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna take that into consideration and do it.
Right, but I also think but what you're talking about is staying humble enough to be able to listen to other people's thoughts. So,
the professionalism. I listen to you. I take advice from him and stuff. You don't go into a financial services and then tell them how to invest.
People do it all the time. You can ask Adrian. Adrian's very smart when it comes to financial things.
That's I guess I'm saying. I think that's just arrogance.
Yeah, I feel like we're saying the same thing. Because take it like a weightlifting thing. Let's say that we're doing deadlifts and you beat me by 50 pounds. I'm like, no, I can't. If he did it, I can do it too. That's not arrogance. That's not ignorance. To me, that's an ego of being I'm not. If my lower back was just like a freaking Halloween cat, it's oh, okay, dude. You need to be able to take a little bit of a humble pie to take a step back and go, yeah, I did that pretty poorly. I probably shouldn't add 50 pounds, but I agree because I'm agreeing with you on the positive side of an ego, but there is a negative side. There was more I was going to say to that, and I just totally drew a blank. Go ahead, Adrian.
Yeah, I mean, sure. I mean, positive side of ego is that, it gets you to push yourself.
Yeah.
And I don't know, leads to improvement, but it can also lead you to make stupid decisions.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah.
Well, that's why they say it on all those posters, leave your ego at the door. Even going to some seminars, I remember I did Onnit's unconventional seminar, and the dude before I even started, he's like, I know you guys are all trainers. I know you've been taught certain things. He's like, please don't counter what we're going to teach you. You can wait for questions and afterwards. Let's just do this way. Like
That's really smart.
The one dude taught knees first in a squat. Like, you're never going to hear me say that, but it's in yoga and stuff like that. And I was like, it's a good way of just teaching someone to get in a better position. It's not the way he was teaching it, but like immediately allowed them to like kind of do their job.
I have to think about my knees while I squat. So for me, that's a really good cue because my knees hurt. Yeah. And even when they're not hurting, I still try to throw it too much into my hips because I'm trying not to engage my quads unknowingly.
I do the same thing. He pointed out on me the one day.
So I think it's just a little exaggerated with the hips thing, but that is definitely how I teach every beginner is initiate the squat with the hips. So it's, what I was going to say was, I lost it again. What were we? Son of a bitch.
Ego.
Just like thinking you know everything. That was what
it was. Thinking you know everything.
Like you gotta go in with an open mind.
Whenever we have clients, so sometimes we'll have clients that I'm like, all right, guys, let's scale it to this, and then there's a reason that we as coaches and me as a gym owner and a programmer write things a certain way, and whenever it's like having someone work on your car. And you see them doing something, and you're like, no, I think it should be done this way. It's like, why did you bring your vehicle to me? You asked me to do this. Like, I'm not saying that every person in their respective fields are experts, but it's like you're coming to our gym for a reason. You're coming to me as a coach for a reason. Please let me coach you. Please let me tell you what to do. My goal is to make you fitter, healthier, those things, not to injure you.
Yeah, and that dude, that was one of the coolest things doing that clean workshop. Like with all those people was super fun. Like I got 100%. Like there was no, well, why am I doing this? I'm like, just try for 4 weeks.
Everybody bought in.
Just try. That's
what you need.
Yeah, just try for 4 weeks. Do this every day, and let's go from there. Like just trust me on it, and they trusted. And dude, like
awesome.
What was it? Indy hit 275 on his clean the other
huge.
day.
I remember it was like a month and a half ago. His one rep was 225.
Yeah, and
that's huge.
Drew hit 185. He hasn't done anything over like 130.
Yeah, and that's huge. That's awesome.
Yeah. So, and it's not like I'm a miracle worker or anything. It's just taking things I've learned from you, from Adrian, John North, and stuff, and bad habits I had, and just like, all right, let's try. And it's just consistency. Yeah. That's what it comes down to. Being consistent.
I don't necessarily think that CrossFit is inherently dangerous or can cause injury. I think it's just all comes down to yourself. Are you willing to listen? Are you willing to pull your ego, the bad side of it, to the side to be like, okay, I have to take a step back in order to take 15 steps forward. If you're always kind of doing the same thing, what's the definition of insanity?
Doing the same thing over and over.
And expecting different results, right? Mm-hmm. It's like there is something to that. And it's like if you're always doing the same stuff and you're expecting to get better, expecting to progress, there's a reason that you are the way you are. It's because of your habits and the things you're doing.
And there's also like let's say that like there's
what are you gonna say, Adrian?
I was just gonna say if you don't want to get injured, just don't do anything stupid, and that applies to a lot of things in life. I mean, it's true.
Just slip a bubble.
Like if your technique is garbage, whether it's on the snatch or the clean jerk or any other movement, well then spend time working on your technique before you start. You try to load 200-300 pounds. Even though you think you are, or you may be very strong, right? Even if you're very strong, it doesn't. If you have a bad technique, it doesn't prevent you from getting.
You got a few people here
injured.
It's 12:05, so Carlos got to coach the class here in a few minutes.
You guys can finish out and close out.
But
like more.
Do you got anything? Do you want to add to that before you head out?
No, just like anything with like injury is. Yeah, here's the worst thing is when someone has a bad experience, they tell 100,000 people, right? And that's exaggerating, but they tell 100 people. Yeah. You have a good experience, you tell 2 people.
Yeah.
So CrossFit gets a really bad name. It came on the scene really quick, and it got a bad rap because people did get hurt. I could tell you, some people shouldn't have been doing RX weight back 15 years ago, like when it started, and I've gotten hurt. But you have to take accountability for yourself. But it's like anything. There's bad chiropractors, there's bad doctors, there's bad accountants. You may have had a bad experience with a bad coach or a bad gym, and that in itself is what gives CrossFit that stigma of you're going to get hurt.
Right.
Is there's been too much from the industry and then people's experiences, which there's no doubt that there could be a legit reason why they got hurt, and it could be in the gym, but you have to take accountability of the coach, the facility, and you. Like, did you just jump right into it and pull 500 pounds? Like, so those are really key indicators of, you know, if a friend is interested and they're like, oh, I don't want to do it because I heard about injury, is like, come try it. We give a free week.
Yeah.
Come see how we coach, see how other clients move, and not everyone looks like they're in the games.
Right. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. We'll close it up. Carlos, have fun with the class.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, bud. Later,
that's
pal.
really weird taking it off.
Isn't it weird? But yeah, no, I think Carlos made some like really solid points. We'll wrap it up here in a few minutes just to kind of put a little bow on it. I think you made some very valid points. Not every gym is the same. Not every coach is the same. Not every experience can be the same. Like he said, whenever we first started out, I think kind of touching on what I was talking about with learning movements faster, like learning muscle-ups faster, learning pull-ups faster, those kinds of things. It also has to do with like scaling in the beginning. I don't think anybody really knew to pull back. Like, you probably shouldn't be doing that. What is it? Isabel at 135, which is snatches, 30 snatches for time with 135.95 is the prescribed weight. Mm-hmm. And it's like in the beginning, it was kind of like you tried until you couldn't anymore. And if you couldn't get past 20 reps, then you just failed. Now it's like, no, let's do it with a lighter weight. And then as you progress in strength. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you feel like that kind of progression happened over in Europe, or do you feel like?
I think it's the same thing everywhere. Because I feel like, you know, CrossFit also attracts a lot of like A-type personalities.
Yeah. People
who are like very driven and who don't like to be seen as like sissies, or, you know, a lot of people who want to be seen as like tough. And if you're tough, there's no backing out in front of a weight, no matter how heavy it is. You're just going to give it a shot. And I mean, you just have to accept that type of attitude comes with a pretty high risk of injuries.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I've had people in the past come in and I'm like, all right, yeah, maybe she used 95 pounds, and it's a guy, and he's like, no, the RX weight's 185. Mm-hmm. I'm like, bro, we're doing snatches. You just learned, and they'll do the ugliest snatch, and they're like, yeah, but I got it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it doesn't. Okay, well,
I mean, it's fine. Yeah, I mean, in theory, yes, you did get it, but then if you do get injured, and that's also why I think like something we've been, or you guys have been saying a lot, is that, you know, like if you have a good coach, you know, you shouldn't get injured. But I think a lot of it comes down to the athlete,
like personal accountability, basically.
You know, like we say very often, you can lead a horse to water, you can't make it drink. And people ultimately are responsible for whether or not you could have the best coach in the world. People decide whether or not they want to listen.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
And if you tell someone, hey, I don't think you should go and weight, and the athlete goes, yeah. You know, I think I can go up like 10 pounds. And even though the last one looks like
bear shitting in the woods.
Yeah. Like
dog
awful,
shitting in your front yard.
They're still going to go for it if they want to go for it. And your job as a coach is not being a cop. And if they don't want to listen to you, then you can't really force them, right? You can't tell them, hey, you know, if you go up and weight, I'm kicking you out of my gym.
Yeah, right. So
I think it just a lot of it comes down to the person.
Yeah.
So like I said earlier, if you don't want to get hurt, just don't do stupid shit.
Yeah. And in a way to not do stupid shit is to listen to the people around you that are probably warning you in a positive way. I've had some clients in the past be like, oh, you probably shouldn't go up weight. And it's like, why? Everything looked fine. And they did the movement correctly. Mm-hmm. Let them keep going. But if you have someone that's like, hey, your technique didn't quite look great on that, or if, you know, this and this, you probably should be like, okay, I'm going to listen and save myself. Because whenever you get injured, that's a week to months of modifications, painful time throughout like your just everyday life. Mm-hmm. And it's like, if we can mitigate that, like I've had some people like almost rip their hands on pull-ups, and I'm like, just do ring rows. And they're like, but I just want to, and I'm like, look, do you want to go the next 3 weeks of having to put tape over your hand, having to like when you wash yourself, like the water hitting it burns. Do you want to do that, or do you just want to do some ring rows and then 3 days from now you're not even going to remember this fucking workout that you didn't do, 8 of your fucking 12 pull-ups?
And in that case, I'm all for giving them the option.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Don't,
not going to force them.
But then
it's up to you.
But then don't go around saying that CrossFit is dangerous because you made the decision to keep doing something that was stupid.
Yeah. And I honest to God believe that statement you just made is one of the vast majority reasons that CrossFit is quote unquote seen as dangerous.
Yeah, it goes back to like the ego thing.
Yeah.
Right. And I think the other thing is, I also feel like the faster something becomes like grows and becomes popular, just like CrossFit did, and that's something that you can see in like other industries, the more it will be put in the spotlight.
Highlighted for sure.
And as soon as, every time something happens, it's like, that new thing.
Yeah, it's like, look, yeah, I told you.
But at the same time, I mean, you've seen just, I don't know, thinking of like bodybuilding, for example, people tearing their pecs or just tearing muscles, like, because they do a large amount of reps, like a large amount of volume when they train. And, your muscles, if you don't do things correctly, your muscles can become stiffer. And then like how many people, because I spent a lot of time when I was younger in just like regular gyms, just working out, and I mean there's someone hurt over there all the time, just like everywhere else. I mean, how many times have I seen just playing soccer, someone who just didn't warm up correctly goes for a sprint
the other day tell me that they
tears
tore
a
their
hamstring.
ACL. They tore their ACL playing soccer.
How many times have I heard friends when I was a kid who completely destroyed their knees playing basketball?
Yep.
How many times have I heard people going skiing when I was a kid, breaking an arm, breaking anything here? How many times? I'm pretty sure anyone who works in a hospital here will tell you how many times they've seen someone coming back from doing mountain bike with like a broken collarbone, broken wrist, broken femur,
something,
anything you want. Does that make the sport dangerous? I mean, yes.
Yeah, same with CrossFit.
But in that case, everything is dangerous.
Yeah.
Right.
So
I don't think CrossFit is, extra dangerous.
Yeah, I don't think. I think the thought is that CrossFit is inherently dangerous, and you should only do it if you're an athlete or if you're willing to injure yourself. And it's not on both things. Like if you do dumb shit, like you said, or if you're trying to push the envelope on competitiveness, like trying to compete, then there is a place for injury in both of those instances. But if you're coming in every day and you're listening to the coach, or if you're thinking about like certain movements, like, okay, well, I can't do that load, I probably should bring it back, those kinds of things, then your risk of injury is none.
It's very
I
low.
mean, not zero, but very, very low. But I hope that kind of answered you guys' questions. We'll go and wrap it up since Carlos has had to dip it out.
Yep.
I hope you guys got something out of it. I'm wanting some topic ideas, so I'm going to make another post on the Instagram stuff. So if you're not following Beyond the Metcon on Instagram, follow that so you can see that. If you have any questions that you want answered, if you have anything like that, any suggestions for topics, anything like that, just let us know.
Yeah, we should probably do like one of these days, like a Q&A, even if we don't have like a full topic, just do like make one podcast where we go through like all the different questions and try to answer as many as possible.
Yeah, I'd like that. So if you guys have just questions, not necessarily topics, just like
we can do an Ask Us Anything.
Ooh, I just saw that somewhere. What is it? AMA, Ask Me Anything.
Yeah.
It took me a minute to realize what that stood for. Stupid. Anyway, all right. Well, appreciate you tuning in. Hope this week sounds better than last week. I don't know what was going on with that, but yeah.
Excellent.
Excelente.
Peace.
Adios.